There are good singers, there are great singers, and then there are voices other great singers listen to when they're alone. George Jones was that voice, the one even legends quietly measured themselves against. Not because he was loud, not because he was flashy, but because when he opened his mouth, something shifted. You didn't just hear a song, you felt like someone had adjusted something inside your chest. That kind of singing doesn't come from training. It doesn't come from charts. It comes from living. And George Jones lived. There's one moment in his most famous song where his voice thins to almost nothing. That moment might be the most powerful note in country music. We'll come back to it. He was born in the East Texas woods in 1931. Not the romantic kind of small town, the real kind. A place where money was thin, tempers were short, and music was one of the only gentle things in the room. As a boy, he sang on the streets of Beaumont for spare change. Not for charm, for groceries. Picture it, a kid barely tall enough to balance a guitar, singing hard enough that strangers would stop walking. That does something to a voice. It teaches you that singing isn't performance, it's survival. In 1954, he stepped into a small makeshift studio and recorded his first song. No money in this deal. No fanfare, no industry buzz. Just a young man trying to carve something permanent out of air. And even then, before polish, before refinement, the phrasing was there. That bend, that stretch, the way he could hold a word just long enough to make you lean forward. His voice sounded like whiskey over gravel, smooth until it caught. George Jones never attacked a lyric. He approached it. He leaned into lines like he was confiding in you, not performing for you. Other singers sang heartbreak. George made it sound like he had just walked out of the room where it happened. That's rare. Not entertainer, singer. There's a difference. If voices like this still matter to you, subscribe. We're not letting them fade quietly. He didn't need spectacle. All he needed was a microphone and a line that cut deep, and you believed him. Yes, there were turbulent years, the lawnmower story, the nickname No-Show Jones. But here's what gets lost in that headline. When he stepped up to the microphone, none of that followed him. When George Jones locked into a lyric, time slowed down. Producers waited. Crowds forgave. Because when he was present, fully present, nobody could touch him. Then 1980 happened. A song came along that didn't just add to his legacy, it sealed it. He stopped loving her today. When that record starts, the room changes. It doesn't rush. It doesn't reach. It unfolds. Now listen carefully. In the final verse, when he sings, "He stopped loving her today," his voice thins, just slightly, like he's holding something back, like the emotion is too heavy to push through cleanly. That restraint, that almost breaking, is what makes it devastating. He doesn't oversing it, he just lets it sit there, like a headstone. And that's when you realize something. George Jones didn't have the biggest voice in country music. He had the most controlled one, and control is harder than power. Through the decades, he became more than a chart presence. He became a reference point. If a new singer wanted to understand phrasing, they studied George. If they wanted to understand how to sit inside a melody instead of overpowering it, they studied George. But he never carried himself like a monument. He was human, funny, complicated, difficult, tender. When he sang duets, especially with Tammy Wynette, there was electricity, not manufactured chemistry, real history in the room. Listen closely to almost any of his records and you'll hear it. A delayed word, a softened syllable, a note that feels like it might fall apart but never quite does. That unpredictability keeps you leaning in. That's why his music still works. Feelings haven't changed, and neither has the way his voice finds them. When he passed away in 2013, the tributes came from everywhere. Legends, newcomers, fans who had never met him but felt like they had. Because that's what his singing did. It made strangers feel understood. Now go back to that moment we talked about. The final word in "he stopped loving her today." Listen again. That slight thinning in his voice, that isn't weakness, that's control giving way to truth. That's what separates a singer from a voice. And if you listen closely enough, you'll realize something else. He never sang to impress you. He sang like he was trying to survive the line. That's George Jones. Go listen to "He Stopped Loving Her Today" right now. Find that moment and subscribe, because voices like this deserve to be remembered the right way.